Chapter 20. Regional conflicts, 1945 to present. Noah, Raj, and Sam. How did ethnic conflicts affect southeastern Europe and South Africa? In the 1950s and 1960s, many new nations won independence in Africa. National unity, however, was not easy to accomplish. With many different ethnicities in South Africa, the white minority government passed radical laws that inhabited blacks. After 1948, the government expanded the existing system of racial segregation, creating what was known as apartheid, or the separation of the races. Under apartheid, all South Africans were registered by their race: black, white, people of mixed heritage, and Asian. Under apartheid, non-white people were given restrictions. Many blacks were like foreigners in their very own land. The African National Congress, or ANC, strongly opposed apartheid and started a struggle for majority rule. Strict laws and rules were put into place by the government of South Africa to separate the races. People such as Nelson Mandela was an ANC leader himself and was the first to mobilize young South Africans and eventually helped lead an armed struggle against the white minority government. Desmond Tutu was a bishop who fought for the freedom of sanctions in South Africa. In fact, he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1984 for his nonviolent campaign against apartheid. The need to end the struggle was growing more and more every day, and finally in 1990, F.W. de Klerk, the South African president, lifted the ban on the ANC, and South Africans of every race could vote. Nelson Mandela was elected as president. Unfortunately, the income and educational gap between blacks and whites remained large, and the AIDS epidemic caused other struggles to create a slowdown of economy in not only South Africa but globally. Countries such as Zimbabwe, Angola, and Mozambique, even after independence, still strongly struggled with nationalist groups and the sharing of powers with whites. Power struggles between ethnic groups began a genocide in Rwanda, a country located in South Africa. Rwanda had two main ethnic groups. Hutus was the majority ethnic group, and Tutsis had long dominated Rwanda. Both speak the same language, but they have different traditions. As tensions increased, the presidents of Rwanda and Burundi were killed in a plane crash, leading to 800,000 Tutsis deaths and chaos in these two countries. Not until 1994 did the fighting cease, when a Tutsi conquered Rwanda. Genocide also took place in an oil-rich Sudan. Rebel groups in the south battled northern political domination, which killed millions and displaced more. 2005, the fighting worsened in the western region of Darfur, with government backing Arab militias conducted widespread killings of civilians. The fighting was so bad that the United States and other countries sent humanitarian aid to the refugees today and allowed UN peacekeepers into the region.
Why did the Civil War confront many countries in the Middle East? Provide three reasons. The leader of the Palestinian Liberation Organization was led by a person named Yasser Arafat. As the leader, he called for the destruction of Israel, not including the city of Jerusalem, since the city of Jerusalem was holy to three different ethnic groups: the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews. The Palestinians in the occupied territories of Israel were told to resist the Israelis with the intifadas, which means uprisings, to make sure that the organization got their message across that they no longer wanted to be occupied by the Israelis. They had a revolt. In the revolt, they fired gunshots at the Israeli troops. There were suicide bombers that had blown up some of the buses, stores, and clubs. Really, what they were trying to do was wreak havoc among the streets of Israel and trying to kill as many civilians so that they can send the message that they do not want to be under Israeli rule anymore. The United Nations had gotten involved after hearing about the conflict, and rather than starting another conflict, they had tried to start peace between the two countries. In 1993, Yasser Arafat and the Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin signed the Oslo Accords. This agreement gave Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank limited self-rule under a Palestinian authority. Arafat was in charge of the authority until he died in 2004. In Iraq, in the 1980s, Saddam Hussein had become the dictator. When he was dictator, he had taken control of the turmoil that was going on in Iran because of the Islamic Revolution. He took control by capturing the border region, and by doing that, this had ignited a long, costly war for Iraq. One of the wars was fought after that against Iraq, Iraq's neighboring country, Kuwait. This was known as the 1991 Gulf War. They eventually lost possession of Kuwait after the U.S. had gotten involved. The U.S. nation began to figure out if Saddam Hussein has been secretly building nuclear weapons or weapons like of mass destruction. This all led to civil war threatening Iraq. By 2005, religious divisions had pushed the country to the brink of the civil war. Britain and the United States had gotten involved and tried to help end the fighting. The reason for all of the civil war to take place was because the government was not working for some of the people, and because the oil industry was being collapsed by the wars.
In Sri Lanka, discrimination created conflicts between Sinhalese Buddhists and Tamil-speaking Hindus. Both sides used terrorist tactics and guerrilla warfare. The 25-year-long civil war ended in early 2009 when government troops pushed through several strongholds. In Canada, conflicts resolved and small minority groups were protected peacefully with a democratic system. After Ireland became independent in 1922, Britain still controlled Northern Ireland, which was made of 6 countries that were of Protestant majority. Discrimination made minority Catholics demand unification with the rest of Ireland. However, Protestants wanted Northern Ireland to still be part of Britain. The 3-decade conflict known as the Troubles was fought until the Good Friday Agreement set up a power-sharing government in 2007. Chechnya tried to break free from Russia in 1994, but Russia stopped the revolt. Pre-1991, Yugoslavia was multi-ethnic, including Serbs, Montenegrins, and Macedonians. Many Yugoslavs had different religions. In 1991, the nations of Yugoslavia began to break away and become independent. When Bosnia became independent in 1992, Serbs, Bosniaks, and Croats within extreme Serb nationalists Slobodan Milosevic supplied Serbs with money and arms. Serbs conducted ethnic cleansing where they killed people from other ethnic groups. The U.S. helped end the war in 1995 as Bosnia began to become powerful. As Bosnia began to become powerful, Slobodan Milosevic oppressed Kosovo Albanians and set up an ethnic cleansing campaign against Kosovo Albanians. Airstrikes forced Serbian forces to retreat from Kosovo. Kosovo declared independence in 2008, and a small NATO force stayed in Kosovo to preserve peace.